This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
It's a pleasure to see you here, Mr. Minister. You all know that climate change is real, and we all have to make efforts in order to reduce pollution. I would like to congratulate the Minister. Your car is a 100% electric car, and I know that as much as possible, in the best of worlds, you're taking the train to do the Montreal-Ottawa trip. Last week, we had to cut short the conversation because you had to make your way to the train station, and that is why 2 weeks ago, March 13th, I, as many people, went to the International Summit for Electric and Smart Vehicles. There were thousands of people there, and the Prime Minister of Canada, and they went to this event by plane. Using a Challenger jet for a 22-minute flight. It's not the first time that the Prime Minister was using the Challenger plane to go to do the Montreal-Ottawa route. On December 6th and 7th, he did this trip with the Challenger. So let's understand. It's normal for the Prime Minister to go throughout the country. It's normal that he has security measures. But sincerely, Mr. Minister, what do you think of your Prime Minister and the MP from Montreal, who's doing Ottawa-Montreal with a jet for 22 minutes in the air? Is anyone taking the environment into account then? Thank you, Mr. Deltel, for your question, and thank you for your words as a chair to work with you and your colleagues on these issues. So, as you said, as much as I can, I try to take the train between Montreal and Ottawa. And so I am a minister. I am not the Prime Minister. I don't have a security detail that has to accompany me everywhere. This would make it really difficult, for example, if the Prime Minister wanted to take the train. But other than this issue, what we're working on with our colleagues at Transportation is to try to significantly improve the rail corridor between Quebec and Windsor so that it be easier, quicker, and more dependable than it is now. And so, according to many studies that have been conducted, this will reduce the use of air travel and reduce pollution. Well, that's really interesting, but my question dealt with the use of planes, and we know these are highly polluting for a 22-minute flight by the Prime Minister. And last week, the Challenger of the Prime Minister flew empty for 10 minutes. So anyone who knows aviation knows that when you take off and you land, this really expends a lot of fuel. So as Minister for the Environment, how can you say that it's fine, it's a security issue? No, it's not. Remember, when you were elected in 2019, your party, your government, your leader had 2 planes for the campaign. There was a 737. It's one of the most polluting planes in the market. So, Mr. Minister, here's the question. As Minister of the Environment, wouldn't it be important to tighten up the use of planes? To be coherent in one's approach. When you spend your entire days going throughout the world, as the Prime Minister is doing, preaching to everyone about the environment. Answer, well, I don't share your characterization of the Prime Minister's speech on these issues, but we can agree that we disagree. But we can look at anecdotal cases, and we can do this for a very long time, but my role is to work for the entire Canadian population and to try to reduce the carbon footprint. And the good news is that GHG emissions in Canada are going down. You'll say that in 2020 there was a pandemic. Yes, there was no pandemic in 2019, and greenhouse gas emissions went down. And so the next inventories will be published in April, and I think we'll continue to see a decline in good news in Canada. So we can look at one person and say, oh, wow, this person, but I'm working for millions of Canadians, and I'm trying to help these millions of Canadians to reduce their carbon footprint, especially in the transportation sector. 2 planes on the campaign trail is not has never been seen, and this was your first election campaign. I don't know how you tolerated it. This is another subject now. COP20, the last COP, many Canadians participated. We saw the last figures. Taxpayers paid for over $1 million for hotel rooms. We understand, and this is a specific discussion, but $1 million in hotel rooms for 113 participants. with rooms that cost over $1,500 a night? Here's the question. 113 participants, Mr. Minister. You had all the facilities in the world to do this over the internet. Why? Why did you have such a large delegation for 12 days, 113 people? And all this was paid for by the taxpayers for the hotels. 113 people. Did you need these many people? Wouldn't it have been possible to save some money? And here's my specific question. What was the environmental footprint of these 113 people that cost $1 million in hotel rooms? When I think that the size of the Canadian delegation, and I remind you, it's one of the most open ones. We have parliamentarians in our delegation, as some of you, Indigenous representatives, youth, union representatives, industry representatives, and representatives from the oil and gas industry, and I defended their presence because I believe, as a democratic society, our delegation has to reflect society. So it's not because there are people that, if you don't like what they have to say, that we shouldn't hear what they have to say.